So next, I'd like to call back Dr. Bafor, and Anir is currently in Columbus, Ohio, with Dr. Dr. Jobst. So again, Anir has had experience in Nigeria, where he was the former head of orthopedics at University of Benin in Nigeria, and has also been a traveling fellow with the LLRS. So Anir's going to talk to us about limb reconstruction surgery without fluoroscopy. Thanks, Anir.
Thanks, Dr. Sabawal. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah,
I
thank you.
think I got it this time, yeah.
No, it's good.
Okay, so this is actually a direct follow-on to my initial talk. So I'm going to be discussing limb reconstruction surgery when you don't have the luxury of a C-arm, and then some of the tips and tricks in carrying out surgery in this situation. Again, I'm going to be discussing the off-label use of procedures, equipment, and implants. I found this quote to be inspiring and I think quite appropriate for this talk. That, when you have problems, it's your responsibility to seek out solutions that are workable. And it was attributed to Alan Levine. So fluoroscopy essentially allows high resolution imaging in real time during surgery, and the advantage of this is it allows precision. So you're able to locate the site of your osteotomy. You're able to place implants in the exact location where you want them. You're able to achieve reduction of fragments or fractures appropriately. And it also allows you to do major surgery from a minimal access perspective rather than open surgery. Of course, the consequence of this is duration of surgery is reduced. There is improvement in safety and improvement in overall treatment outcome. And so, going by the previous slide, we can infer what the problems would be if there's no C-arm. So precision is lost. There are problems with finding the ideal location for implants. Sometimes, naturally, you would have a longer duration of surgery, and you may then have to resort to open procedures rather than the minimal access procedures. So, what is achievable? Essentially, the goals or the principles guiding treatment are really not the same. I'm sorry, they are really not different from the goals of treatment in general. So you'd still aim for an improved function of the patient and the limb. You still aim to eliminate pain and then, reduce the risk in the development of long-term complications. But I think it's important to add here that one of the considerations should be the realization that it doesn't have to be perfect. So with scoliosis and hallux valgus, you can still be the fastest man in the world, essentially. So the decision-making process in this situation, the problem here is you don't have a plan A, which would be the ideal. And so the next best thing is to execute plan B or plan C. And in deciding what to do, I consider these five points as crucial. So the experience of the surgeon is important, just as it will be even if you have a C-arm. The surgeon's proficiency in carrying out surgery without a C-arm for the procedure in question is absolutely important. The type of patient is also very important. So the patient's age, is the patient skeletally mature or immature? And this would be important if you were considering procedures like guided growth, where you have a very narrow margin of error. The build of the patient, so an aesthetically built patient versus an obese patient, this would create problems with access to the surgical site. counseling is also very important because you are operating under conditions where you have less than ideal precision, and so in some cases there is an increased chance that things might go wrong. So it's important that you get buy-in from the patient. And then the choice of the procedure, there are some of the procedures, in spite of your best efforts and in spite of how much you wish, they're just not possible. And so these would coalesce to the final point, which is decision making. So your choice of procedure, what to do and how to execute this essentially. So the workarounds, I kind of group this into 3 time frames. So things that you can do pre-operatively, and then the intraoperative, the intraoperative modifications, and then post-operative, the post-operative things to do. Pre-operatively, detailed X-ray analysis is absolutely important. Here in particular, you are focused on an analysis of landmarks, relationship between structures, markers. So send the patient for X-ray with several different markers labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever it is, and based on where the markers are in relation to your ideal site of osteotomy, for example, you decide which of the marker best marks your access point. Intraoperatively, I call this the ioscopy, where you kind of eyeball it essentially. Again, you are going to be relying on anatomical landmarks. You may need to rely on open procedures rather than choosing the minimal access route. The use of mobile X-ray units for some procedures that absolutely require precision. So if you were doing a skiffy, for example, or if you are attempting to do a guided growth for an open physis, you place your K wires, have the mobile X-ray brought in, you take your X-rays in intraop and wait for the films to be developed. And then you kind of see which of the wires is where you want it to be. The problem with that is it causes an unnecessary prolongation of surgery. The other thing is using calibrated instruments. So you can use guide wires that are calibrated from your pre-operative analysis. If you can determine the length of the neck of the femur, for example, is 9 centimeters, and then you have wires that are calibrated, you can then determine just how far you advance a K-wire into bone, for example. And then there are non-fluoro dependent targeting instrument systems. The sign nail is one. We have used this. It's a bit like the workhorse for fracture and deformity correction surgery in this. And then post-operatively, modifying your post-operative plans to, and this will be based on the type of surgery that you have done, essentially. And I'm just going to conclude with a few sample cases. So this is a patient who has Coxa-Vara, for example. This procedure would be carried out using like a standard open lateral approach to the hip. You create a track for the nail, which would be the blue line there, and then identify the osteotomy location under direct vision, complete your bone section, reduce the distal fragment in relation to the proximal fragment, and then introduce your implant. In this case, we use the sign fin nail, which does not require intraoperative imaging. And then you get your outcome. So you restore the neck shaft angle. Another example is patient with this severe angular deformity of the knee with rotational component. Here, we actually published this technique, I think, in 2011. Yes, the approach would be, again, open surgery, and we use 2 incisions, 2 one on the medial side and one on the lateral side, create an anterior posterior dome osteotomy, and incorporate the lateral closing wedge. And you'll be surprised at just how much you can get. So here we have the patient both weight bearing and supine post-operatively. So in conclusion, when you don't have intraoperative imaging, it's important to remember that your goal should be modest. The role of patient counseling is absolutely important. You must also spend a lot of time planning what you need to do and execute this with very meticulous technique. Thank you.